The Virgin's Last Kiss, Part 2. In the dark forest, Elara struggled hard, pulling at the ropes that tied her to the tree. Her ribs hurt, and fear filled her heart, but she refused to give up. The men circled her, their cruel laughter ringing in the night. Back in the village of Kansingo, the feast had started. Drums beat loudly, and dancers strolled around the fire, their colorful clothes shining in the light. People from other villages had come to celebrate. They clapped and cheered, excited for the maiden's kiss. Amira and her friends sat in the front, wearing fine dresses that sparkled in the firelight. They smiled and whispered, pretending to enjoy the celebration. But inside, Amira was full of nerves, hoping her plan to stop Elara would work. Elara's family, however, was not celebrating. Her mother paced nervously near the feast, searching the crowd. "Where is she?" she asked, her voice shaking. "She never came back from the stream," her father said, his face tight with worry. Kofi, Elara's brother, tried to calm them. "She is probably helping someone. You know how she is." But at this time, more people noticed Elara was missing. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some got worried while others ignored it, thinking she would appear soon. Amira looked at her friends. "Relax," she whispered. "No one will find her. This night belongs to me." But deep in the forest, something unexpected happened. Just as one of the men moved closer to Elara, a loud growl broke through the night. It wasn't human. It was fierce, like an angry beast. The men froze, looking around nervously. "What was that?" one of them asked, his voice shaking. The growl came again, louder this time. Then from the shadows, two glowing golden eyes appeared. A huge black panther stepped into the moonlight, its sharp teeth gleaming. Before the men could react, a voice boomed, "Stop!" The seer stepped out of the trees, his glowing staff lighting up the dark. The panther glowed again, standing protectively between Elara and the men. "You dare harm the chosen maiden?" The seer's voice was loud and angry. The men backed away, fear on their faces. "We didn't know," one of them stammered. "You knew enough," the seer said firmly. He raised his staff. The panther roared. The men didn't wait. They turned and ran, disappearing into the forest. The seer rushed to Elara and untied the ropes. "You are safe now," he said gently. Elara sobbed in relief. "Why would someone do this to me?" she asked. The seer's face was serious. "Jealousy and fear," he said. "Some people will hurt others to hide their own weakness, but you are stronger than they know." He helped her stand, and the panther pressed close, its warmth calming her. "This creature," Elara began, looking at the powerful animal. "The gods sent it to protect you," the seer said. "You are meant for something great, Elara." Together, they made their way back to Kansingo. The music from the feast grew louder as they neared the village. When they stepped into the firelight, everything stopped. The drumming halted, and all eyes turned to Elara. Her family ran to her, crying and hugging her tightly. The crowd buzzed with questions, and the elders stepped forward, their faces full of worry. The seer raised his staff to quiet the crowd. "Tonight we saw both good and evil," he said. "Elara is the chosen maiden. The gods have shown their favor." Amira's heart sank. She tried to stay calm, but her hands trembled. She couldn't look at Elara or the seer. Elara stood tall, holding her family close. She had faced danger, but she hadn't given up. The maiden's kiss was no longer just about traditions. It was about courage, and Elara had proved she was worthy. The drums grew louder, the dancers moved faster, and the feast seemed to continue as if nothing had happened. Yet an uneasy tension hung in the air. Elara stood quietly by her family, her mind racing while the seer moved to the center of the gathering, his staff glowing faintly in the firelight. Elara is here because the gods protected her, the seer announced, his voice cutting through the noise. But the gods are not blind. Evil has been done this night, and the truth must be revealed. The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to the seer, their earlier joy now replaced with fear and curiosity. Raising his staff, the seer closed his eyes and began to chant. His words were low and ancient, filled with power. The ground seemed to tremble slightly, and the air around the gathering grew heavy. The glow from his staff spread outward, a soft light washing over the people. Amira, still seated with her friends, felt a strange heat rise in her chest. She tried to steady her breathing, but her heart pounded wildly. Her friends noticed her discomfort. "Amira, are you okay?" one of them whispered. Amira shook her head, gripping her seat tightly. The heat in her chest grew stronger, spreading to her arms and legs. She felt as if she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Panic filled her as the light from the seer's staff wrapped around her like invisible hands. "No," she whispered, trying to fight it. "No." The seer opening his eyes, now growing faintly like the light of his staff. "The truth cannot hide in the presence of the gods," he said, his eyes turned sharply toward Amira. The crowd turned as one, their eyes locking onto her. Amira's friends pulled back, their faces filled with confusion and fear. "What is happening?" someone whispered. Amira stood suddenly, as if pulled by an unseen force. Her body trembled, her lips quivering. She tried to hold back, to resist, but the power was so strong. "It was me," she shouted, her voice breaking. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I planned it all." Amira's knees buckled, and she fell to the ground, sobbing. "I went to see a dark sorcerer. I begged him to help me stop Elara. He gave me charms and spells, and I paid men to kidnap her, to ruin her." Her confession poured out in a rush, her words tumbling over each other. "I couldn't let her take the maiden's kiss. I wanted it for myself. I thought if she was gone, no one would question me." The crowd erupted in shock murmurs. Elara's family stayed in disbelief, and even the seer seemed momentarily struck by the depth of Amira's actions. Amira's voice cracked as she cried out, "I didn't know the gods would protect her. I didn't know this would happen." The seer stepped closer to her, his staff still growing. "You let jealousy guide your heart, Amira," he said, his voice steady but full of disappointment. "You brought darkness into this sacred night, and yet the gods chose to reveal the truth." The panther, still at Elara's side, growled softly, its golden eyes fixed on Amira. She trembled under its guards, her face paled and tear-streaked. One of the elders stepped forward. "Amira, your actions have brought shame to the village. This was a sacred ceremony meant to honor the gods, and you have defiled it." Amira's friends shrank back, not wanting to be caught in the fallout. The crowd began to murmur louder, some calling for punishment, others too stunned to speak. The seer raised his hand, silencing them. "The gods have spoken," he said solemnly. "Amira cannot remain among us. Her darkness threatens the harmony of our land. She is to be banished to the evil forest, where she will face the consequences of her deeds." Gasps filled the air. The evil forest was a place of shadows and despair, a land said to be cursed by the gods, where no one ventured unless condemned. Amira's sobs grew louder as two warriors stepped forward to take her away. "No, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please don't send me there." But the elders remained unmoved. "You must face your fate," the elder said. "May the gods have mercy on your soul." As the warriors dragged Amira toward the edge of the village, her cries faded into the night. The crowd watched in silence, the weight of what had transpired settling heavily upon them. When the seer turned back to the crowd, his voice was calm but firm. "Though darkness tried to taunt this night, the gods have blessed us with light. Elara has shown strength, courage, and purity of heart. She is the chosen maiden, and the gods have great plans for her." The villagers cheered, their voices rising in celebrations. Elara stood quietly, still processing everything that had happened. Her family gathered around her, their faces filled with pride and relief. Suddenly, the sound of a trumpet echoed through the air. The crowd parted as the king, flanked by guards, stepped forward. His presence commanded silence and all eyes turned to him. "Elara," the king began, his deep voice resonating, "tonight the gods have revealed your true worth. You are not only the chosen maiden, but a symbol of strength and virtue for our people. I cannot let such a rare jewel remain unrecognized." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "As king, I pronounce that Elara shall marry my son, Prince Darren. Together, they will guide this village to prosperity and ensure that the God's blessings continue to shine upon us." The crowd erupted into cheers once more. Elara's heart raced and her cheeks flushed with surprise. She had never imagined such an honor, but the warmth in the king's words and the pride in her family's eyes gave her courage. The prince stepped forward, his kind eyes meeting hers. Bowing slightly, he extended his hand. "Elara," he said gently, "it would be a greatest honor to stand by your side." Elara hesitated for a moment, then placed her hand in his, her heart steadying. The villagers cheered louder. Their joy echoed through the night. The drums started again, and dancers returned to the center of the gathering, their movements filled with renewed energy. As the celebration continued, the seer watched from the shadows, a faint smile on his lips. The gods had prevailed, and a new chapter was beginning for Kansingo, a chapter filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a brighter future. The night ended with the villagers rejoicing, their spirits lifted by the gods' justice and blessings. The celebration of the maiden's kiss transformed into a grand festival of unity and hope. Elara stood at the center, surrounded by love and admiration, her heart finally at peace. Amira's cries faded into the distant forest, a harsh reminder of how jealousy and greed could destroy even the most privileged. Her banishment was a warning to all. The gods saw everything, and evil could not prevail in Kansingo. As the festivities continued, Elara's family embraced her, tears of pride in their eyes. The king's proclamation signified not just a personal victory, but a new dawn for the village. Elara, once scorned and underestimated, was now a symbol of resilience and virtue chosen by the gods themselves. The seer words lingered in the air as he departed quietly into the shadows. The gods protect the pure of heart, and their plans are always greater than our own. Elara glanced at the prince beside her and smiled softly. She had been through darkness and despair, but the gods had turned her trials into blessings. Together with the prince, she vowed to lead Kansingo with compassion, ensuring the village flourished under their care. And so, the village of Kansingo entered a new era. Its people, inspired by the lessons of the maiden's kiss, Ilara's story became a legend told for generations as a tale of courage, truth, and power of the God's justice. Thank you so much for watching the Virgin's Last Kiss. Your time and support mean everything to us here at Poka Stories and Folktales. If you enjoyed this story and want more captivating tales, please like the video, share it with your loved ones, leave a comment to let us know your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel.